Seven, six, five, four, three, two, one.
Welcome, everyone, to episode number 88 of CBD Talk Podcast. And we have a different kind of show today. We have with us from Greenz, Skylar Lysaker. And you know what? We're not really going to talk about CBD today. We're going to talk about a plethora of uses for hemp. And I think this is really important because we don't want to think that the only use for hemp or cannabis is like CBD and medicinal and things like that. There's a lot of things that you can do with it, biomass type wise with just all sorts of different uses for it. So, Skylar, first of all, how did you end up in this ridiculous industry that we are in?
I'm just following a journey. That's pretty much how it happened. I got introduced to hemp textiles specifically about 4 years ago when I was still living in Minneapolis, and I had a friend that I met through my brief one semester of college that mentioned that he had a buddy that was working on a hemp clothing line. So I kind of met up with this person and explored the idea, and we embarked on a journey. And that company didn't last that long, but I did learn a lot. And eventually, over time, after I moved to Phoenix and I made some new business partners, started an advertising agency, we wanted to have a product that was aligned with our morals and our ethics. And I was already strong-willed and really loved the hemp clothing. And me and my partners decided to do it again, but do it correctly, build it out with more integrity, build a bigger team. And that's kind of what has become the mission of Greenz now, just defying the limits of what the clothing industry is currently done and setting a new standard of ethics. That's the main goal for us.
So where are you based from?
Phoenix, Arizona. That's where our HQ is.
Nice, very nice. So when did Greenz start?
Greenz is a year and a month old right now.
Oh, you're doing great. Right,
Moving right along.
Yeah. And what have been your biggest challenges when it comes to hemp clothing?
I would say the hands down biggest challenge is that it's very underdeveloped, specifically here in the United States. Countries like China, India, UK, some parts of Russia, they never really had the laws changed, so they could not grow hemp. So they've been growing it and milling it and turning it into textiles for many, many years where we didn't have that opportunity. So there's no fully vertically integrated manufacturing in the United States. I get that question a lot. People are like, well, where's your hemp made? I'm like, well, we're still trying to figure that out. I mean, we have an international supply chain. The goal for us is to have the first vertically integrated manufacturing facility here. We'll call that seed to shirt because nobody's currently doing that. Anybody else that creates products. Yeah, it's just interesting. It's the niche is growing and people want it and they want to learn. So I'd say that biggest challenge is getting a fully vertically integrated process here and having full control of everything, because the goal for us, like I said, is to have a really integrity driven business and show people that, hey, this is the entire supply chain is transparent. This is how things actually go down, because those are the misnomers that people don't know about in fashion right now that cause a lot of problems beyond the profit margins and the absurdity of some of these products. You know, it's the people involved, it's the ecology, the back end, what happens when you make the decisions you do in 50 years. That's important to us.
Yeah, very much so. Okay, so have you had any issues with banking at all? Because I would imagine if you had the word hemp in anything that they might freak out.
No problems with banking.
Good.
And surprisingly enough, no problems with social media yet either. For us, though, since, as I mentioned earlier, we do run an advertising agency, and we have worked in the cannabis industry in the past. So we know what we can and cannot do. We also know the loopholes. So
Nice.
if you notice on any of our social media pages, our website, I'm only using one word, that is hemp. There's no cannabis, there's no weed, there's no THC, there's no stoner talk, nothing related to the plant at all. Not one thing. And that's because you can't do that. You can't legally run ads for your company and do those things. So we're one
Facebook
of the few
won't even
companies.
let me run an ad for CBD Talk podcast.
Yeah, you got CBD in
That's
it.
right. I'm like, you know what? Screw you. Don't
Yep.
want to give you my money anyway.
Yeah. I feel times will change
Yeah.
as they did with liquor, but right now you got to be able to find ways to play the game and navigate through it. And we're lucky that we're ancillary, so we don't have to deal with anything related to the plant yet. But we're not going to be getting all contextually crazy and wrapped up in all that stuff right now.
Yeah,
That's kind
you
of
gotta do what works for you,
yep.
so you can grow your business. But how many years out are you thinking that it's going to get to the point when you're talking about the vertical integrate, the vertical integration with being able to seed to shirt, to be able to go seed to shirt? How close are we getting to that?
Great question. And that's, I mean, whoever does it first will do it. That I want to be us. That's the goal, is to have that full control of the supply chain.
Hmm.
It's not that we don't have farmers. We have too much hemp right now. That's the actual thing, is that I have people hitting me up all the time, multiple times a week, like absurd amounts, saying, "Hey, I have this biomass. Do you want to buy it?" I'm like, "Well, buddy, you don't just get biomass and turn it into products. Like, it's not that easy." The thing is that people are really not that educated. Like, even in the cannabis space, I've been on other podcasts. I don't know if you know who Corey Sharp is over at Hemp Logic. Great guy, great
Yeah,
company.
he sounds familiar to me.
Yeah. And, he was talking about there's CBD farmers he knows that are just like, "Oh, I got a decorticator. Like, now I can, like, make clothing." He's like, you can't, like, that's one part of the process. So there's a lot of, the biggest thing is that we need the machinery and the skill sets.
Mhm.
I can learn that skill set through people over time. Like, I'm not going to be personally doing it because I have CEO visionary roles and all the other stuff. But with our current manufacturing process and the people we know people that know how to do it and that have the equipment. They're obviously not in the United States, so we just have to reflect that process here and then improve on it over time.
Hmm. Yeah, because I'm imagining that you could fly someone over there to get trained,
Yeah,
but
definitely.
you need the machines.
Exactly. That's number one. Machines and the skill set. So it's just like somewhere back in time, people had to, the cotton farmers and understand cotton gins and weaving and all that stuff. So it's the same thing, except a little bit longer of a process for hemp because it doesn't come off like a little fluffy cotton ball and get thrown into a gin. Cotton's much easier. Hemp has a couple extra added steps before it gets into usable fiber for clothing.
So, what are some of the products that you guys sell?
Currently, we are selling our t-shirts in 6 different colors, and we have pre-orders ready to go for hoodies like the one I'm wearing right now,
Nice.
long sleeves, crew necks, zip-up hoodies, all that. And the goal for us over time is to just continue expanding piece by piece. We have a really freaking amazing designer. Her name is Alana. She's worked with Levi Strauss, Ralph Lauren, Urban Outfitters. She's been in the fashion game just about as long as I've been alive. So it's pretty cool building our company with a strong foundation of people that have skill sets that will add to the vision of this.
Do you have specific things that you've got coming up next in your line that you're hoping to get to?
Yeah, great question. The first things are, as we're in pre-order for some of these products, is to stock up on a lot of the basics, core products. So more different styles of t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, long sleeves, socks, hats.
Ooh, socks.
Just the basics. Yeah, socks are awesome. The hemp socks samples that I have are great. Since hemp is antifungal and antimicrobial and moisture wicking, it makes a pretty mean sock.
That's amazing. Um, so one of the reasons that I reached out to you was because you had done a video on LinkedIn that I saw about additional uses for hemp that a lot of people don't know about, and I thought it would be good just to you know share a little bit of that knowledge. So, how about you educate us on a bunch of different things that we can do with hemp, and also why we're
Definitely,
not doing it.
most definitely. So I'll give you the insight that I know to the best of my ability. Obviously, my main core knowledge is in textile, and hemp, for fabric. So I have done research in a lot of different areas, and I see a couple. And that video that you saw me post was one of two or three where I touched on different industries that would be affected by hemp over time. And once again, I think the biggest 3 to 5 that will be affected will be the pharmaceutical industry, obviously, as we see right now with CBD and cannabis. So that's kind of the known one. And then we can get into the fuel industry because hemp biofuel. And I know one or two people that actually know the science of this because they've been in this side of the industry. And they're talking about taking hemp pellets and burning it down and it being better on engines. That helps your engine last longer, and it's just overall more sustainable process because we're not drilling into the earth, spending so much money. We can just grow infinite amounts of weed. Funny enough, because hemp is a weed.
Yep.
That's why it grows anywhere insanely fast, and you can find wild plants everywhere. So biofuel, I think, is a really cool one, especially with the trends of electronic cars right now, which I don't even know if I've bought into because I think about all the battery waste and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of other things like the biomagnetic uh, barriers of the body and sitting inside pretty much a battery. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know if that's the best thing for humans. So I'm thinking
And
about,
how are you charging that battery? I mean, unless you're charging it with solar,
yep,
you're still.
yeah. It's, I think Elon Musk did really good with his marketing
Mhm.
and products, but, people are sold by faraway ideologies. Man's also trying to fly to Mars to leave this place, so I don't really know if I can trust him. But besides biofuel and pharmaceuticals, I think paper will be a big one too. They're writing original documents of the Declaration of Independence, and those original pieces of what built America on hemp. They were growing it back in the day. Everybody was required to grow it. Hemp paper is, like I said, there's an abundance of hemp. There's abundance of ways to mill it and turn it into paper and have it be more economically and ecologically friendly.
Now, is that,
Obviously, though,
do we already have that ability in the States, or is that something that also needs to be done internationally right now?
that's another thing that's been done more internationally. I know one company in Canada that is doing it, and I know a couple others internationally that are doing it with like hemp stock cars and stuff like
Okay.
that. But once again, it's just one of those industrial things that were left behind when we decided to outsource everything to everywhere else in the world and become a consumer nation.
Mm-hmm. True. And then what about
So
biofuel? I mean, not biofuels, bioplastics.
bioplastic, that's a cool one. And I don't know if you know this or not, but Lego said that all their plastic will be hemp plastic by 2020.
Oh, that's
Thought that was
right. That's so
very interesting.
exciting.
Very cool. I'm not as I haven't done much research on the hemp plastic yet, funny enough, but I think that's going to be big. I know a lot of people playing in the hemp plastic space, and when you have Lego come out and say that, that's uh
That's
that's
huge.
pretty intense.
And I'm
It's
so
huge.
grateful that they're doing it. That is
Yeah.
amazing. And then, like, so I know one place that did a tiny home completely made out of hemp products.
Yep.
I've heard of the actually one of the conventions I actually met with people that were making the hemp based insulation, and the insulation factor in when you're using hemp is higher than the other products that are being used, and so it doesn't have to be as thick.
Yes.
So I thought that was cool. And then of course hempcrete.
Yes.
I've heard about the hempcrete.
Construction too.
Yeah. And
Which is kind of like a duel because with the tree industry and paper, and obviously for building homes and housing, same thing with hempcrete. So there's other options that are there. We just don't have the science uh, fully up to date and the R&D. It takes time.
mhm.
And I think America is finally coming back around to being more industrial and more do it your freaking self. So I'm excited to see that happen. And I think hemp will definitely lead the way, and it will revolutionize how we do things.
And we were always such an agricultural country. But this can bring us back to that and the family farms and all that. It's just something that I miss, as growing up in the 70s, it was a lot more agricultural based than it is now. What's one
Yep.
thing that you're hoping to see happen in the industry?
I think the biggest thing that I want to see happen is people get educated. Like I mentioned, there's people that are growing heaps of weed and CBD right now, and they don't know what else to do with their biomass. There's got to be recycling companies that need to come into play. There's going to be a lot of education needed to make sure that we fully utilize this plant and we don't just smoke the shit out of it.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's pretty much like the way I see it. And that's why I'm in this space, is that I think everybody has the concept that, oh, it was made legal or made illegal because of weed. And I'd say I completely disagree. And through the grapevine and people that I've talked to that have been in certain family lineages in my research, I'd have to say that it was a combination of the clothing industry, the paper industry, and the pharmaceutical industry, and cotton as well, all teaming up to create propaganda against weed. I've heard of stories of Wrangler and some of these big pharmaceutical companies back in the day putting in hundreds of millions of dollars for propaganda campaigns. And, that touches clothing, that touches trees, which touches paper, which touches construction, and pharmaceutical, which touches medicine, and all that. So you see the bigger picture going on here that will literally destroy like multiple facets of business. And people in those businesses are extremely greedy, and those businesses usually don't sustain livable wages for people, and or they benefit the environment, and they create materialism and consumerism. So they're companies not built on integrity for the most part. I can't say that about all of them.
Mhm.
And some people just are uneducated, so they don't know. But that's what the bigger picture seems like to me.
Yeah, and I don't know whether it was you or someone else. I can't remember, but there was someone was just talking about the hypocrisy of you know of the growing trees for paper and construction and all that, um, while we're trying had tied it into the environmental thing. It's like,
Yeah,
let's leave the trees alone because they're there to protect our air, and in
clean
addition,
air.
to for you see people using trees naturally, but also in landscaping to help hold their land. Like if there's a sloping area, to help with the roots of the trees, help the I don't know the word for it, where the land starts like falling away or something. I'm not an agriculture person, so sorry, but um, but yeah, I mean trees do amazing things for our environment, and to cut them down for something that we can plant a crop to replace and then harvest it over and over again because it does grow very quickly in certain regions. I mean, like in Colorado, we've got one season. We got one
Yep.
growing season, but in other areas further south, they have, from what I understand, you can get more than one harvest in a year
Correct.
on hemp. So, is there a lot of I don't even know. Is it legal to grow hemp in Arizona?
Yep. I mean, the Farm Bill passed in 2018, so all 50 states can grow hemp. I was reading the USDA's, the United States Department of
Mhm.
Agriculture. I was reading their new amendment that they released, and it's pretty beast. It's like 100 pages, still a draft, but it's basically everything that got signed off on the hemp bill in December of 2018, and it's procedural. So it's showing like, here's what happens if you're growing hemp. There's going to be a testing on the plants. There's going to be a testing on the soil. You need to have proper recycling set up, and you need to have these types of licenses, etc. So that's going down right now, and people who are farmers and into agriculture can get involved. And I think that's huge because, I grew up on a small farm, and I appreciate supporting farmers, and I believe that what's happening right now between these big companies and corporate farms is really fucking up our soil. And once again, hemp can change that. If everybody who are farmers were using hemp to clean their soil, rotate it for their crops,
Great
they would,
rotation. Yeah.
phytoremediation. They're removing toxins and chemicals from the soil from factory farming and from pollution. And hemp will neutralize it or destroy it, and we can properly dispose of that hemp or recycle it or burn it and continue to rejuvenate the soil. So even if you weren't growing it as a cash crop, you could use it to clean the soil. We're just at the grips of these giant companies and corporations right now who don't want to see that happen.
Yeah.
It's going to take, once again, it's going to take educating people to know this shit so they can take a stand against it. It's never, the only reason we've gotten to certain places that we're in right now in the States and in the world is that we've given up our power and indemnified ourselves because we're not educated properly, and people don't want to take the time to be educated.
So if you're using hemp in a crop rotation, can you use that hemp for clothes then?
You sure could. Here's the thing, is that with phytoremediation, there's three potentials that happen. There's like phytoaccumulation, I don't remember the other two, but they're the variations of phytoremediation. So what essentially happens is that the hemp will vacuum toxins from the soil, and it will either neutralize them, it will store it in the stock, which is what you'd use for clothing, or it will clean it and push it back into the air. So there's those three things that can happen. I don't know the difference.
You would test the stock then to see if it's able to be turned into clothes then? Because like you're talking about recycling.
Yep.
When you're using it for phytoremediation, you're talking about recycling it. What could they recycle it into? I mean,
Great question.
Like paper, rope.
Yeah. You could do all those, and I'm not sure if it's genetic, per certain genomes equal different phytoremediation process. There's a lot of science to be done.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky that I know some people that are botanists and have studied hemp, and they can provide the factual information on this stuff.
That sounds like a great opportunity for people out there who, because we do have so much biomass. So yes, we need manufacturers.
We need manufacturers for the farmers right now. That's why I'm on the manufacturing side, because there's an abundance of this.
Yeah. So if we want them to be able to recycle it, we need the manufacturers to be able to do it. We also need to know, like if there's testing or something to find out how we can use, ways to use all this biomass that's out there, because there is a lot. I see it all the time. I see people, selling biomass left and right. And I know that I saw another one where they were I'm looking down because I'm looking at my dog. And so there's some great hemp based dog beds out there that I've seen. So they're just so comfy. But yeah, if we don't have the manufacturers to do it.
Yeah, that's the part right now. I mean, there's scientists that understand this stuff and have studied it, but it's been so freaking limited because of laws. Now it's changing. So, the goal for us is we're going to continue growing, raising money, working on grants, so we can do the science, we can do the R&D on those things. I mean, obviously it takes time, but that's the goal for us. What's the time?
I said it's worth the time.
Oh yeah, it's worth the time.
It's changing the way people, live. Whether it's clothing or fiber or housing materials or whatever. I mean, this is a great way for environmentalists to be able to say, okay, let's not cut down the trees, let's plant some hemp, and see if we can help with the air quality and stuff like that. So
Definitely.
What is your favorite, most just tugs at your heartstring, happy thing that has anything to do with hemp or cannabis? What's your favorite use for this plant that's been maligned for so many decades?
Clothing. That's why I'm doing it. I mean, I fashion. The reason why we're even in the clothing side is that fashion is the number 2 polluter in the world behind oil. Fashion causes more pollution than all international flight and maritime shipping combined on a yearly basis. So we have and why that gets me so fired up is that not only is it causing a lot of pollution, it's fucking up people psychologically on a level that people are so interested in materials and having the best thing, the next trend, buying super expensive stuff when it's made like terribly, and everybody that's involved in it. So the goal is like we want to build a company that's transparent about all this. We want to challenge businesses to do things better, to set a higher standard because nobody's doing it. Everybody's so concerned with pushing numbers, pushing volume, pushing sales that they don't even care about what the hell happens in the back end.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at entrepreneurs as the backbone of the world. And as an entrepreneur, you can either take your time to build a business with integrity that will help people, or you're going to do it for the money. And there's a lot of the later happening right now. I see it changing, but if you look at all of the chaos that's happened by these big corporations over the past 50 to 100 years, it's because at one point, somewhere in time, somebody came out of alignment with their heart and with their mission, and they gave into greed.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have these big ass companies completely destroying the planet, destroying people, and I don't want to see our world continue down that path. And I think that while I'm alive and while my business partners are alive, to start, to head that change. I think it's one of the biggest things that you can do as a person is find a way to make an impact and do it. And don't let any person or any type of mindset sway you away from that, and that's just my higher purpose. That's why I know I'm here. So I'm excited to make a difference in the world because I live for nothing but that.
Well, we talked a little bit about why hemp is great for socks because I mean
Yes.
it really is, and every hiker should be using hemp socks across
Yes.
the board. What are some other benefits of using hemp or having hemp-based clothes instead of like cotton-based clothes?
Great question. And this is my space. So hemp is antimicrobial. It's been known to be to kill MRSA within 24 hours.
Yep.
It's antifungal, so it keeps germs away from you, which could be very, very big in hospitality and in the medical industry too.
Mm-hmm.
I think it could be, it's clean, keeps things sanitized, which is a beautiful thing. It's also hypoallergenic, meaning that if you're a person who suffers from sensitive skin, it's going to mitigate that experience for you. I think, what commonly happens with most synthetic man-made clothing and conventionally grown cotton clothing is that you're leaching in chemicals and pesticides and
Mm-hmm.
toxins and microplastics, and it makes you sick. It irritates your skin. I've talked to people who are personal trainers and some of their clientele who are crazy spandex or Under Armour or any of this fake shit. They get really bad rashes and they get sick.
Yeah.
And that can be solved with this. I wear my hemp shirts every single time I go to the gym. I know I'm not leaching toxins.
Mm-hmm.
I'm staying safe from germs in the gym. It's keeping my skin safe because I have sensitive skin as well. It's also thermoregulating, so it keeps you cool when it's warm and it keeps you warm when it's cold. So there's all these great benefits. And it's UV resistant too. So another hiking thing. I pretty much say if you're human, you should be wearing hemp because we all sweat. We all go outside in the sun. We all have some sort of sensitivity to skin. We live in a very toxic world. So we should protect ourselves with the best of the best. And right now, as far as we know, that is hemp. And I still believe in organic cotton. I think, cotton done right is a very beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it can be great for the planet as well. But leading with hemp because it's easier to grow, it's easier on the soil, it's quicker, it takes no pesticides. It's going to be, that's got to be the leading fiber, and that will always be that way for us.
Yeah. The other thing, when you're talking about all the health benefits, especially the MRSA, which I am waiting for the world to catch on to that. I think that it would be really great if someone could make hemp-based hemp-based scrubs for the medical field.
Yep, that's been on our mind.
You need
And
to just do it. Get it off your mind and do
I
it.
know that's what I'm waiting for. It's just one step at a time. You can only do so many things at once, but I want to do a lot of things. Anything involved with textile, I would really like to do. I think the goal is like Greenz will be a brand, that will be our thing. But I have a hunch that what I'm getting into is going to be way bigger than just Greenz because we do offer private label already, so we are helping other brands get
Oh, that's
hemp out.
wonderful. I did not know that.
Yeah, that's the low key stuff, and
Oh,
it's going to
hey,
be.
what's your website? So people,
It
because not
is
everyone's
W.
watching it. A lot of a lot of our followers are on iTunes and Spotify and stuff like that. So they might not see it, see the show notes on the YouTube version.
Definitely. The website is www.greens with a Z supply.com.
Okay, and so they can contact you through there
Yes,
and do and find out about your private label stuff. Yes.
they surely can.
Very good. Very good. Okay, so um, I know that we talked about what needs to happen, you know, uh, in the States for us to be able to catch up with the rest of the world when it comes to fiber manufacturing, textile manufacturing. We talked about some of the ways that hemp is superior when it comes to other materials for clothing. We talked about some of the other uses that are coming are growing with respect to biomass. Talked a little bit about farming, about remediation. What have we left out? Can you think of anything? I mean, we already talked about the medicine side.
Yeah, yeah. Um, okay. I think there's anything else that's of. I think we hit most of the things that are most relevant.
hmm
Um, they say there's 50,000 uses for hemp. Do I really know that? I don't have no freaking idea. But I know a few of them that are really good that can really transform our planet, and we covered them.
Yeah, and I honestly, I did not know that fashion was the number two polluter on the planet.
It's the hidden industry that nobody actually wants to find out what's going on. Like, when you do find out, it'll make you very, very, very concerned, not only about our environment but human rights. Some of the shit that's happening in third world countries where we ship this clothing, and how it's decimating people's, it's decimating ecologies, and farmers are getting sick, and kids are being blamed. Like one out of five in India, 1 out of 5 kids that live on a farm or are cotton farmers are born autistic. So genetically, what's happening with these pesticides from conventionally grown cotton and synthetics, which take a lot of oil to be made, funny enough, is that people are getting really, really sick. It's causing mental disorders. It's leading to a lot of other problems. It's polluting the soil again with hemp, which we can solve. So it's this big thing that's propagated by marketing and consumerism, and nobody wants to admit it. It's super easy to just walk into an H&M and buy anything you want because it's super cheap. Uh, that's easy. It's what everybody's been doing for time. And like, if you think about all the malls in the world, all the clothing in those malls, and think about how they cycle that clothing out all the time. And you think about, if there's all these malls and there's all this clothing, where the hell does this go? Because it sure doesn't get purchased, not all of it. And it ends up places, it ends up in landfills. And this man-made stuff doesn't biodegrade for hundreds of years while leaching toxin into the soil. With hemp, with a green shirt, you can wear it, and then you can cut it up, throw it in the compost, and it's going to be gone in a couple of months.
Amazing.
That's the basic science. I want to do like time lapses of it, like just laying the shirt out on the ground and seeing how long it takes to actually biodegrade without cutting it up and processing it with compost. But that's what we can do. So when your clothing does get old, or you don't want to wear it, you don't want to recycle it, well, freaking let's compost it.
Yeah.
Let's put it back in and grow more hemp. Like it's something, that's why our symbol is this little infinity logo. Like we stand for regenerative business. It's going to be, we need somebody to do something about what's happening in the world, and everybody really likes complaining about it, and everybody likes propagating and blaming companies, but nobody wants to lift a damn finger and do something because they're too comfy in their lives. And that's just where we've decided to draw the line.
That's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. Well, hopefully we will get lots more people like Skylar Lysaker because we need it. We've had the opposite for far, far, far too long. And this little experiment of ours um, has turned into a little greed machine. So we
Yes.
need to switch the greed machine to a green machine and get back on track. So, well, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for what you're doing and for sharing the knowledge with us. And hopefully, we'll get some people over there to greensupply.com. That's green with Z at the end, not an S, supply.com, and show you some support, show you some love.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Well, everybody, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. And until then, stay healthy and stay happy. Bye.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.